Hello YouTube, I am El Worfy, and welcome to part 2 of episode 3. Originally, when I showed this game, this is the exact same game as the first part, so if you don't feel as though you want, because you know what happens, we win. But this second part is more to look at my partner and how he handled his tactical position in a bit of a different way than I did. Now remember, in part 1, if you please go watch it, there'll be an annotation in the link above, but all my fighting ends up being centered around... I'm a bit disoriented. Most of my fighting happens in this area, and this area, and a little bit back here. But not too much in the middle. And that's just because of the way I planned out my movements and such. So I'm going to fast forward a bit. You already know the composition if you go watch the previous. But I'm going to specifically point out exactly where my ally is putting the different types of units, which do make an impact. Now I'm going to fast forward through the beginning so that way we can watch. But we're just going to be looking at this player. We're going to be looking at Jimmy, and we're going to see how Jimmy handles his opponent. Now, FPS rate is going to drop because of fast forward, and I'm just trying to cut through this. So if you do feel any lag at all, it's not you. That's just because of fast forward. It'll go away the moment fast forward ends. And I'm just going to wait for my enemy to spawn, so I know that I can start playing normally to record. Okay, so now we're back to normal. Sound's back on. Everything's good. So let's take a look. Step 1. He takes his light foot, and he repositions them. I wish really badly I could do it for his perspective to look at his. So we're just going to have to go on instinct on what his plan is. So he starts out by moving his light foot. And when we were playing, for me, I didn't pay attention to what my partner was doing. And he didn't really pay attention as much. I mean, you will see a little bit of interaction, which you will see parts of the same game from previous. But he immediately charges all his cav up. And I was a bit taken back by this, as I've mentioned before, because this cav isn't supported. You know, it's not going out of its way to break a line to help its infantry. What this is doing is getting him positional advantage. Now, I learned this from another YouTuber who also has done this, and he's explained it as, in this game, it's about positioning. You want to get the best position you can, and by taking this cav right up the hill, he secures that position because this ends up being the main area for his army. And now you'll notice this player, we were talking about it after the game, all this cav were running up on the right. And Jimmy wasn't too concerned. We both were very clumped, and we kept our army very contained within each other. These are all mine. So this is all of Jimmy's army. And it's way smaller than mine. But you'll notice that that's not really an issue, because specifically his tactics, he's more of a, hey, let's go use heavier, stronger, and better, flat out, they're just better infantry to deal with certain problems. For example, one problem that his player comes at him with is there's these a 7E, a Lancer unit, and a lot of foot guard, young guard, and young guard are good. Don't get me wrong. Old guard is the best, but young guard is, they're acceptable. So he sets his light foot up. I wasn't quite sure why he wasn't putting them in light formation, because if he fires, he'll kill his own men. Now, I didn't watch this section. Eventually, he does put him into the correct formation, but I wasn't sure if this is how he started out. And for some reason, he runs his foot up in front. So that was a bit strange. But over here, you can see he's moved up these light foot are in the correct position. And they're just going to wail down on these chasseurs right there. And you'll notice, this French player, he's moving up, and he's going to form the noob square. And the only reason it's going to work in his favor is because of this terrain that'll block a good spread. So this is good. This is an absolute mess. I don't know what this was, but eventually he does manage to get his light infantry in front and get some decent organization. You'll notice again, he has foot, not really doing anything. And they're just kind of extra. He has Coldstream in the middle. These are a little out of position because, again, they're not really going to be helping with any particular flank. They're just in the middle for reserve, but that's okay. That's totally fine, because what he's doing is something quite clever that watching this now, this is the first time I've looked at his side of the game, to be honest with you. And he just gets the range advantage on these young, the chasseurs. I mean, he gets the first shot, but eventually, you know, see, that's taking a bit of damage. You know, it's not optimal. Now, what this French player should have done is charge his cav all the way down and just disrupted this light infantry. Don't go for the line, because the line will square. You don't want to ever charge cav in a line unless you're getting a pincer movement, like they're fighting on two fronts, where the player might be distracted. Like, say, the French player takes these forces and engages here. He'll be forced to do square and stuff, and because of the way Napoleon's game works, admittedly this is a game issue, of forming square, he could probably get one of these pushes. The French player could probably get one of these guys out when they weren't in square. But Jimmy does notice this cav moving around, the Chasseurs Cheval coming around, and this is a pretty decent choke that Jimmy can hold. And we chose this map because, I mean, we've been playing in some pretty open maps, but this one's a bit more cramped and requires a bit better tactics for flanking and moving men around. You'll see over there, this is where I'm at the very beginning of that. So when I've barely started my engagement with my opponent, Jimmy has already begun just attacking his enemy straight up front. And then the French player decides to move his old guard in. This guy did have an old guard. And watching this again, I didn't realize he had an old guard. That is my mistake. And he actually has two. Jeez, I wonder how he... See, I'm actually quite interested in how he dealt with this, because old guard are the best infantry in the game, period. There's nothing better. If you want to try and say otherwise, you're wrong, because that's not correct. Now, the French player takes way too long moving his cav around this side of the mountain, which again would have been much better charging in, especially with old guard support. I mean, that's gonna tear them up. Now, I don't know what his thinking is here. I know he does reposition to try and do something, but you're better just sitting. If you know those units are gonna rout, just let them keep shooting, because you want to get the most out of your men. But again, that's why you have these units back here. You'll notice he hasn't used his cav. He hasn't even really moved them that much, like at all. And we were talking, I told him about how I'm moving up, so this is going to be useful, but we don't need his cav. Like, I don't need his cav on this side. So he's just going to kind of move over, because he knows there's a threat, and this guy just stops his cav. I never understood this at all. Like, because why are you stopping your cav? Because that's what they're used for. Like, for me, you know, I saw a cav presence over here, going back to the original, so I bring my cav over to do the correct move. You know, I charge, you know? That's what you do. You don't sit around with your cav in the back unless you're going to use them for a specific reason. But if the reason you generally want to use your cav is to disrupt line, because when line are in melee, they can't shoot, and that gives your line a chance to shoot without being shot at, which is a huge advantage. And you'll notice Jimmy's actually like quite outnumbered by the French, but thanks to this French player having like decent line, you know, he's not my opponent who just brought a freaking buttload of regular line. Now this guy does charge his light dragoons. Oh, sorry, not this guy, it's Jimmy. Jimmy charges light dragoons across the map. I'm going to presume they're going into that, which are at 53. Now at 50, that's when you can't form square. I don't know, are these light infantry? Oh, they are. Those are light infantry. So this is actually going to be pretty good, because you'll notice the French player, he moved his light infantry up a bit too far. Now, this is an interesting choice by Jimmy. Honestly, I would have pulled out if all you were doing is trying to get your men into a better position, because I mean there's still infantry out there. They're Fusiliers, and admittedly King's German Legion could possibly destroy everyone. But he ends up running his cav all the way around to get that early general kill. Honestly, I don't know how he managed to get around here. I mean, the general, I don't have faith in the general being able to survive, but what this does, surprisingly, this one unit is holding up all of these men. And this is allowing Jimmy to fully reorganize his line and push. This cav, they're not doing anything, so he doesn't have to worry about them. And even if he had to, these wounded men, they could still have enough men to square and defend against cav. So he's totally going to get a better position. And these men are just sitting in square. The French player likes square at all of the men. And you'll see now Jimmy has like an enclave going on. You know, it's not as good as what I managed to do because I get a full flank, and that's way better. But you'll notice these men, they're not doing anything. And just like my men, who are way back there, and I just realized I need to move up, that's okay. You don't need all your men. And if you can fight the enemy without using all your men, then that means you're winning. Like, straight up, you're winning if you can do that. Now, I'm not sure if this is a charge or not.
The men are fatigued, sir.
Okay, so he lines up. That's on my for my side, because I can only spectate as me, so that's what that's about. But he'll just start opening fire, and King's German Legion Foot. These are like one of the best units for England, and accompanied with the special DLC 88th Rangers. Oh, I guess he's charging. That is interesting. I didn't realize he'd charge. So, right. So even though he doesn't use his cav to make them form square, which is what I think these calves should have come to make them form square, which I guess he does do to support. Sorry, to support his units, which is totally okay. You'll see now that these KGL are not really doing anything, because look, he's squared. Now, in this situation, technically that's correct. You do want to be in square, but you know, if I was going to square, I'd square when they're close. I'd still be lined up and maybe scoot back, try and retreat to the aid of my ally if I could, but of course his ally is totally focused on me and is not going to be worrying about that. And so Jimmy's engaging on multiple fronts, and that's really making the French player a little bad at his micro, because you'll notice when you're in square, you don't have to micro your men, you don't have to manage anything, they're just sitting in square and they'll defend and they'll do their job. And if you rely on free fire too much, you'll notice certain things don't work when you think they should. The square can be used to get a range boost, but these have regular, I'm pretty sure, 80 to 100 range. I don't think they're any special versus, because they're foot. You know, foot don't, or in other words, line infantry. Foot are just the name of the Great Britain. So he routes this. And that's Old Guard. You know, he just routed Old Guard. Now, he did admittedly get the free shots from his light foot, but that's what you want to do, because you can't fight Old Guard one-on-one. So now you'll see this guy moves his cav in way too late, I don't know why his cav didn't engage, because now he's got this huge line, and even though it looks like a noob square, it's not because of terrain advantage. You see how terrain actually makes this position, which looks bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, this looks absolutely horrible, but because of the position, he can do stuff like that. See, he can route, and these hidden units will show up, and I don't know if he knew about these hidden units. I don't know if he even turns to run or not, but I guess he just keeps going in for the charge, which is a bad move. That's a loss of your cav right there. I will say that it was a bad move on his part. But you'll see at this point I got my men back, and he's gonna start doing stuff that's pretty good. And if you don't mind, I'm actually gonna pause 1 second. Okay guys, I'm so sorry about that. I was in the middle, I had a phone call, and even though I couldn't stop the recording because of the way Fraps works, it made it tough. So you'll notice this is about the time when I'm doing my stuff, and these guys don't have anything to do. So he's going to hold out, I think, because he sacrifices his cav and like a random charge, and he has 10 men. Honestly, that's not going to do anything. He uses it to go after a routing unit. Going after a routing unit isn't going to do much. But his Lightfoot are putting up a pretty good fight against these Polish Legion and Shazars. So, you know, after his cav routes, this one line has been holding out for an extended period. You know, I mean, they're fresh. You know, you don't get fresh units often. I mean, see over here, when I make my mistake with my cav as well, I think all of us in this game just really didn't have good control of our cav units. Because look, this guy should be charging. Or you know what? If you're gonna wait that long, move your cav around to hit my general. My general was wide open in this whole game. You know, I never really looked back to defend my general in this game at all. And this is about the time when I make my charge, and these guys are still not being touched. This is a bad move. You're splitting your lines up. Honestly, you're better if you just get 3 troops concave. Now, admittedly, he did have more, so knowing this could work, but on the initial charge, you really want to choose one spot and go after it with overwhelming force, because this is 5 units. You know, this is one of the hard parts of his team, but they're actually the weaker side of the engagement, because all his elite troops are like on this edge of the map. And he's technically losing this fight, because he has lost 1 light infantry unit, or if not yet, pretty darn heavily. That's going to be gone. But King's German... oh, that's a foot. He swapped.
Our men are running, sir.
Sorry, that's on my side. I do lose the melee men. That's what that's about. So at this point, that's when he organizes his men. Because of this movement of cav that runs into him, because remember, French cav is one of the best cav in the game. I mean, that's what France is good at. So he forms square and gets his light out of there. And this ends up being advantageous because of this extra unit of Lightfoot that was just sitting here. He's able to help out me. I'm his ally. And because his Lightfoot are more fresh, he can take over, and I can get my men to help reinforce his position, so we do a little bit of swappage. And now over here, you know, we're just firing, you know.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
That's on my side. I'm not quite sure where that is, but it's not too important for the purposes of this. So he's going at it with his young guard, but look, the foot are the ones taking damage, not the King's German Legion. Now, admittedly, these guys are not firing at the young guard because they should be firing at the young guard. And again, this cav is going to sit there and not do anything, so he's just going to be like, well, if they're not going to do anything, I guess I'm going to redeploy. These men must run out of ammo or something, because there's no reason to charge light. You never charge light infantry, they're just not going to last, because their morale is absolute garbage when in melee, because they're a long-range unit. That's just the facts of the balance of the game. So then they're finally taking damage. King's German Legion, you know, they're only so good for so long, I mean. And then this unit of cav comes in. It's a bit of a problem for him. He messes up on his square. Admittedly, our management wasn't perfect, but my men are going to be able to get shots off, I think. They better be anyway. Yeah, we start shooting, and that's going to help deal with that. So, you know, this foot, you know, they're fighting Young Guard. Young Guard are not to be messed with. They're really good. But the two versus one conflicts are very effective. See, now he's getting a split fire. And now 2v1, you can't win 2v1. When it's a 2v1 and you're losing, you need to pull back. Like I did over here, you know, I realized I was getting outmatched, so I moved away. And that's all you really can do. So he keeps charging forward. I don't know what the heck he was doing, because finally this cav finally is swinging around. But he had cav waiting for him, you know? And these guys are the light dragoons. And even though they're not made to take on cav or anything, he has like an extra set around. He's ready for this, you know. He's been like prepared to deal with these cav for most of this whole game, and he's never had to use his own cav to break lines. See, now that's a good way.
Used all its ammunition, sir.
That's when my Highland Foot run out of ammo when they charge in a suicide attempt to hold. It's a stalling mechanic I use. You'll see it in the first part. But he didn't have to use his cav to break any lines. See, because me, I'm someone who likes to use my cav to break my lines. You know, like in episode 2 when I charged that guy on the side. That was very helpful. But in this, you'll notice that these cav get to just come here and wreck these guys. Because look, they get the charge bonus, even though they're in the woods. You know, the charge bonus isn't as good. And again, I would never put my British cav against French cav, because French cav are better. And look, he did get the shot off with his chasseur cheval, because they're good at that. But these cav, you know, they're not really fighting, and I have to admit, I'm questioning that decision. I would have brought them over to re-engage, not the same cav, this cav, because this cav is going to get free shots, and that doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, this is interesting, the Coldstream Guards, I'm not quite sure what they're like. I don't know what their range is, but they're doing, I mean, they're winning. You know, they're technically winning against this, and the general's taking through fire. I lose men in up there, the Highland Foot in the melee. That's what that is. So his general's about to be down to 2 men, and I realize that this is how the general gets killed off. Even though it killed off earlier, now there's not even the morale boost. You know, it's like a dead cav. And so with this massive, like, I guess he re-engages for this. because he's trying not to use too much cav. I don't know if he lost one of his cav. Actually, yeah, he did. He lost. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? To prove that he lost cav. Yeah, these cav are running. That was my allies. But that's what happens, you know. This is a pretty balanced game. French cav will beat British cav. That's the facts. And of course, my ally knew that, and he was bringing up some light foot who could get that good range shots on him. And look at all these units. You know, I mean, 2 of these are mine. And this is the time when my ally stepped up, and this is about when everyone was routing. But you'll see, you know, he gets it off. These guys just hold their line and gun them down.
Our men are running, sir.
That's in another melee somewhere, I think. Yeah, that's in the other melee that's up there, and that's the whole thing breaking over there. And, you know, surprisingly, these British cav hold the line with 12 men. I'm not quite sure how they did that, because he even comes back in for another charge bonus attack. But then look at this beautiful setup. These Coldstream guards are going to get fire, like free fire, because now Jimmy's totally okay to lose this cav. But the best part is he doesn't. He times it perfectly that he still has cav. Now, admittedly, these are super vulnerable to breaking, and they are only good for, like, disrupting enemy line fire. But that's good enough in this game, because you'll notice, look at this whole flank is gone. I mean, look at all these bodies. And I'm not going to deny the fact that he did lose a lot of men. You know, Jimmy did take a big beating too. But in this game, you know, it was tough. You know, this was a tough game. And then, of course, you know the rest, because after Jimmy routs everyone, then he comes back to make a second kill here. So that's his foot. My light infantry ends up moving forward here. You see, this is a big chunk of our army that's pushing up while I push up on this side. And you'll notice, if Jimmy hadn't won like that, you know, you're like, that's why, even though you may have seen this part already, it's important to understand how much of an impact he actually had. Because imagine me charging the way this is without Jimmy's extra lines for support. This is Jimmy. This is actually me down here. Let's see, he wouldn't get that volley off, you know. I'd be because I'm climbing this hill. I wouldn't be able to climb that hill. And we did get lucky that the enemy went into square. And this is like the point where it's like, hey, these men can't actually see. So another reason why it's good to have an ally is because you get that movement. And these units actually are at a disadvantage for their hill shot. And these guys are also, you know, they can kind of see. But I'm moving my men up through his, which is totally acceptable. And yeah, these guys are taking hill shots. You know, that's how it goes. And he's moving his men. Well, he's not even moving his men up all the way, like all of them. He moves his general up, which is good. And I eventually get my general up, because a hill push is so difficult, you know, getting up there. Because even though it looks flat, you know, it's not. And those men are totally, like, the most important. Because look, they're down to 70 men, alright? These units up here, they're at, you know, some of them are at a good healthy, well, that one's at a good supply of men. But you can see, because of his line infantry, we were able to do much better combinations of attack. I'm not quite sure. Is that his light foot? Where is his light foot?
Glorious victory, sir, is soon to be yours.
And then we end up destroying the remaining French player. I did take longer to kill off my French player, and I did need that support, but that was due to my lack of positional advantage. You know, maybe if I had been aware, you know, battlefield aware, that his army hadn't quite come up yet onto this hill, maybe I could have just started out on this side and been pushing backwards. That could have made a huge difference. Because the map is actually balanced, for the most part. I think where he had set up this area, that's a very defendable position. Same thing for over here, if I was set it up over here. Very defendable position, you know, you can do it. You know, this side stuff, that was all kind of... But keep in mind, every little action is what led to it. If I hadn't pushed up on the side, I might not have been able to do attacks on other flanks. Same for him. So again, thank you to the same people. This is part 2 of an original battle. And don't worry, you will be getting another battle very, very soon. Just because I make 2 videos doesn't mean I'm not going to count it. I still consider this as one gianter video that I wanted to break into parts so everyone would do well. And you'll notice, actually, he's lost less men than me, and he's deployed less, and he's killed more men than me. So, even though he had less men than his opponent was the guy on the bottom, and he was outnumbered by 200. He ended up wiping out pretty much all of his opponent, because most of those kills are on the guy he was fighting. And that's all you really need to do to win. So anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this lion battle. Thanks again to Jimmy and abigoldcake and MG Quintina. I'm Elworthy, and I'll see you guys next time.